All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we could have a moment of silence, please. Would everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Steve Lamantia,
Here.
Miguel Concha,
Here.
Richard Achar, not
He's
here,
getting married.
Nick Benavides,
Nick here.
Martin Castro,
Present.
Ricardo de Anda,
Present.
Hector Alanis,
Here.
Henry Savigny, Michelle Winterall, here, Sister Rosemary Welch.
Present.
You have a quorum.
All right, a couple of house cleaning items before we get started here. First off, we're gonna swap out the schedule here, and number 2 on the agenda will go first, and then number 1, I was asked by one of the board members if we would do that, so that, for, just because of time, it's at 5. Second, let us remember that the scope that we are tasked with, which was given to us by the city, was to look at what the federal government wants to do as it relates to the border wall on city property. If we are to go outside that scope, then we need to go back to the city and have the city tell us, okay, you need to go outside that scope, we want you to look at other things. And more specifically, when you talk about the bollards or the floating buoys, they will be on federal property, is my understanding, because it's in the river, on the riverbed. So that is not city property. Don't have a problem discussing it, don't have a problem changing the scope of what this committee is gonna look at. But until such time as we vote and ask the council to change it, then that's not what they've asked us to do. So if we wanna do that towards the end of the meeting, we can have a vote and say, let's go outside the scope, let's ask the city if they'll change it up a little bit, so we can look at other things. I don't wanna go down a rabbit hole, if we can prevent it, of, well, it could affect us. It will affect us. The bollards will affect us. But you could say, by the same instance, a wall 20 miles upriver on private property may affect Father McNamara Park. Well, that's true. I don't know what we do about that, unless we change the scope of what we're supposed to look at. So, and that is fine. The other thing I'd like to do is, we have a presentation by Dr. Tompkins, and he is on video. I want to limit his time. I'd like to limit it to 15 minutes, and then everybody has the opportunity to ask a question. I don't know if you've reviewed if he can't get his point across in 15 minutes, then, we have to do something else. Maybe have him back or whatever, but I don't wanna belabor the point, especially since this is for review only, and we are taking no action on this presentation about the bollards. Does anybody have a comment about what I'm asking?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think this is exactly what we're talking about in this, during this discussion. The wall and the buoy system are going to affect city-owned lands. Dr. Tompkins is the best expertise we have right now at this table. And, this is a direct threat to city infrastructure. And so our job here in front of this committee is to understand any impact to city infrastructure and public lands. So I think we should give Dr. Tompkins ample time to make his presentation and have committee members ask questions during the Q&A afterwards.
Excuse me, I do have a question. What is ample time to you?
I think 15 minutes is fair. Mr.
I think
Chairman.
15 is fair as well.
Anybody else have a, yes, sir?
I do have a comment. I just want to make sure, in best interest of time, and I mean, I hate to put it this way, but did everybody get a chance to review the information? Because if you didn't, you're going to have more questions than not.
Correct.
So that's very important.
And look, I am sure, I'm assuming this, but if we go down this road and the city council comes back and says, we want you to increase your scope, we want you to look at bollards, how that affects it, even though it's on federal land, then I'm sure Mr. Tompkins would make himself available sometime in the future. And we can ask him that question.
Sure.
And I don't want to avoid the issue. I think we need to address it. But we need to address it the proper way, in my opinion.
Looking at this as like a lawyer, I would look at city critical infrastructure, and I would want to see what damage is going to be caused as a result of these walls. And whatever other infrastructure they may throw at us. I'm going to try to get as much evidence as I can to show as much damage as I can. If I can show that it's going to knock down the bridges, I'm going to want to show that and ask the judge to compensate the city for rebuilding the bridges. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm certainly not an expert on that. But I think that's our central issue. How will this affect the city's infrastructure? The bridges, the sewer plant, the water plant, our water distribution system, and so forth.
And Steve,
Not whether it's a wall or whether it's a buoy, but rather how will this system affect our critical infrastructure? Because we're gonna have to live with it. If that bridge goes down, we're gonna have to pay for it. So is that a possibility? I'm not an expert, I don't know. He certainly has one view, but the city can hire experts to find out.
I think these are the early
Well, hold on.
I just thought.
Don't you speak, just in the essence of trying to keep this cooperative and running smoothly, get recognized first, and then once you're recognized, you can speak. So, Sister Rosemary?
I just appreciate you bringing up the possibility that the scope could change. And I think that all of us around this table are goodwill.
Yeah.
Everybody around this table feels a real big responsibility. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting around here and wouldn't have looked at materials before we came. So I appreciate that because we've been asked to give our opinions, our ideas from 8, 9, 10 different people to help the city council make decisions. So I appreciate you saying it could change, it might not change, but we're here to give some ideas to the city.
Correct.
So thank you.
Nick?
I mean, this is just the early stages of the committee, this is only the second, so really it's more of a, we're just starting to gather information, and I don't think, we need to get the information and be fair about it across the board, and then we'll make a decision as we go forward. I think that's a good point, if we need to change the scope, I agree with you on that.
Okay.
But I think let's go forward.
That's fine.
Anybody else? No? Okay, so I am gonna suggest, unless there's opposition, that we go 15 minutes here, everybody have a chance to ask a question. I don't wanna get down this road of 15 different questions. Everybody ask a question, and then we go to the next step, all right? Whether it's going back to city council, change the scope, ask them to come back, whatever it is. Was that fair?
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Okay, so 15 minutes. If you, will you keep time for us, Karen?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Martin?
you. Thank you.
Oh, excuse me.
Just a housekeeping thing, I think, some people think the meeting's still at the council chambers, can they put a
Okay,
little
no.
sign, so.
All right, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So at this time, I'm going to read item number 2 into the record, and then we'll allow Dr. Tompkins to give his presentation. So item number 2, informational presentation by Dr. Mark R. Tompkins, PE, PhD, regarding a report prepared for the Rio Grande International Studies Center addressing riverfront conditions associated with proposed federal infrastructure along the Rio Grande corridor in Webb County. No committee action required. Dr. Tompkins?
Hello, everybody, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, step 2, I'm gonna try and share my screen. Will that work? Will you all be able to see some simple slides here?
Yes, sir.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing, so you might need to do something on
It's
your
under
end.
share. The second, it's the second, yeah, the second one. This, there you go, that one. All right, Dr. Tompkins, you want to try again?
Okay, I will try again here, share screen. Okay, it looks like it should be working now.
We don't, oh, there we go.
Lucille, do you wanna hide the side panel so that we can make it a little bit bigger? Thank
Okay,
you.
Dr. Tompkins, we see your screen, go for it.
Great, okay, and is my time starting right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, first off, I want to thank all of you, both for your service and for sharing your time today to talk with me. I know you've taken on a great responsibility for your community, and you're diving into a pretty complex issue here on an iconic American river, and depending on how you measure it, it's either the third or the fifth longest river in the country. The work you do on this committee, and I've served on a few different river committees in my career, it really can shape the place you and your families and your communities live for a long time to come. I just want to thank you all and appreciate your commitment. So who am I? I don't know how much y'all have researched me. First off, I'm passionate about rivers. For about 30 years, I've worked professionally on more rivers than I can count. That's been in Texas and across the rest of the U.S. I've worked in rivers while they were bone dry. I've worked on them when they were flooding over their banks. I have always been surprised and impressed by the power of rivers to change and shape landscapes. I'm a fluvial geomorphologist. That's a fancy word for someone who spends a lot of time studying how rivers move sediment and water. I'm also a civil engineer, a licensed engineer, and that means I'm professionally bound to ensure that the infrastructure we civil engineers build, like levees and roads and bridges, protects the people who depend on it. And as you can imagine, my civil engineering work is focused on rivers. Just really quickly, I'm glad to hear you're just starting this process. I think I want to caution you all to take your time in this process. And I know you all haven't spent your lives like I have waiting around and thinking about rivers. So before I dive into the technical stuff, I wanted to give you a quick sort of setting of the stage that maybe some of you can relate to. I'm hoping one or more of you in the committee there has had some experience with horses, and that's another passion of mine. And I think it's really important to think of the term, this is a term I hear used around the horse folk all the time, bomb-proof. And it's the kind of criteria people who are looking at horses and thinking about horses to maybe train their kids on think is key. You need to have a bomb-proof horse. And if you met somebody trying to sell you a horse and says it's a great old horse, he's never a problem, but sometimes if the wind blows a certain way, he might just bolt on you. But don't worry about that, that never happens. That's not the kind of horse you want. And just like horses, and sorry if this is a little corny to some of you, but I think this is a key way to be thinking about your task. Rivers are a lot like that. They look peaceful 99.9% of the time, but it's the 1% of time when we're messing around with rivers and putting things in them and trying to control them. It's that 1% or that 0.1% of the time that you need to be planning for. It's really the stage I want you all to be thinking of as you do the rest of your work. So what is the biggest problem right now with the proposed system of border wall and buoy chain? Well, one, as a civil engineer who's spent my career trying to get river projects built, nothing like this size or scale, the kind of waiver that's been issued for this project, I understand where that kind of idea comes from. I'm in favor of more expeditious processes, but in this situation with such a massive, long, we're talking hundreds of miles project, this waiver, and I've done a bunch of research trying to put all of my analysis together, it's resulted in a nearly complete lack of technical information on the design and performance of this proposed system, especially at those extreme conditions that I've talked about. Now, I've designed projects, river projects, that are tiny in comparison to this one, and without exception, I've been required to do very rigorous analysis and produce extensive documentation that clearly demonstrates how the project will perform under extreme conditions. And you should all expect this from the proponents of this project, how the mitigation measures included in the project will minimize all of the risks, and that's what I'm going to be talking about next. Because river projects, even the ones that are really just focused on providing flood control and public safety, they always have risk. We engineers call it residual risk, because you can't ever plan for every possible scenario. So you should all expect that from the proponents of this project, to clearly document how this project is going to perform and how it will mitigate all the risks. So first, just a little bit of history. I'm sure you are all aware of this, but the Rio Grande has been and will continue to be a very dynamic river system, even without the proposed project. And you really only have to think back to 2010 to get a sense of the way this river can behave under stress. I don't know how many of you were there in 2010. I've done a lot of looking into the different reports from that event. Over 40 feet of water barreling down the river, neighborhoods were flooded, evacuations occurred, and all of that was happening with the proposed project not there. No wall along the river, no denuded banks, no buoy chains stretching, over 100 miles. And the dams and reservoirs that help control floods were working pretty well, which is not always the case in our flood and river protection systems. So I think it's our responsibility, I know it's mine as an engineer, to think about how another 2010 type of event or greater would play out with the proposed project, and even with the existing system of dams and reservoirs and levees not performing as well as it did in 2010. These are the kinds of things you should expect the proponents and designers of this project to make absolutely transparent. We also know, and this is data from the federal government, from FEMA, and the flood mapping that they do, that large areas of the Rio Grande in and around where you are already flood. And it's in areas that include critical city infrastructure like water treatment plants and bridges. And it's only in the 100-year flood. And I think it's important to remember a 100-year flood can happen any year. And it will happen in the next 100 years. Most likely much less than 100 years. So you also need to be aware, and it's definitely my expectation, that very little of the existing city infrastructure, the bridges, the roads next to the river, the plants, the parks, were designed with the obstructions and debris trapping potential of the proposed project in mind. And that's important. Engineers always put a factor of safety on that considers the existing conditions, but if you add a whole bunch of new influencing conditions, it's really, your infrastructure is not designed to accommodate that. And one more thing to remember about the current flooding. It's not just the river itself. You can see, the purple strip going right down the middle. It's everything that flows into the Rio Grande. We also know the Rio Grande is actively eroding and depositing sediment, shifting its course even without the proposed project. Each of these dots on this map are places where it's either eroded or deposited or moved, and that's only in the last 15 years or so, and by looking at not all of the potential history of the river. So it's a place that even without the proposed project and the impacts it could have, that is already dynamic. And the proponents of your project should really consider all of that baseline dynamism when they're proposing a project that's going to contribute to it. So what are the risks? And you all have my report, and I'll say, I know we're time crunched, I'm at 10 minutes. I'm going to get done by 15. But I'd be happy to talk with any of you in more detail about my findings. With the limited time today, I just want to highlight the 5 key areas of risk that I do analyze in that report, and you can follow along. This is mostly already in there. I'm just going to try and highlight it as an engineer. The hydraulic risk. So flow obstructions from the wall itself and the buoy system will reduce river conveyance area. There's no way around that. The obstructed flow has to go somewhere. In many cases and places, it will get higher and deeper. And even if that's just a little bit, in a river as large as the Rio Grande, very small changes can have very big consequences. The second category of risk, geomorphic. You've all heard this before. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. There's no difference in a river. The wall, proposed wall, and the cleared riverbank area along that wall is going to set up faster flood flows. It's less resistant to flow. and that faster flow is gonna be going over ground that's more easy to erode. The buoys will hem in all of the debris that comes in from the US side of the river and effectively control that and deflect flood flows in unpredictable ways. We can do some pretty amazing things with computer models and simulations, but we can't predict every response of a river. It's still outside of our capabilities. But it's gonna be faster river migration than we've seen without the proposed project. The geomorphology of this system will change with this huge proposed set of new infrastructure. Number 3, debris loading and structural failure. The wall and buoy system share characteristics of things like trash racks and debris strainers that we civil engineers designed and installed to catch debris in all kinds of flowing water systems. And it's going to be impossible to keep hundreds of miles of this new infrastructure free from debris, especially because most of that will be coming down during very dangerous flood conditions where it's really not practical or safe to remove that kind of material. And most, maybe all of the existing infrastructure, like I said before, along the river, it wasn't designed with this set of new infrastructure in mind. So I encourage you to demand an analysis and documentation for the proposed project that shows how debris loading and some level of system failure of this new set of long linear infrastructure will affect the river and surrounding areas, because debris buildups in the Rio Grande won't just affect the river itself, it will propagate upstream into the neighborhoods and tributaries as well. So risk, it should be pretty obvious to safety and property, and it just takes one small failure over this huge, long, extensive system to cause significant impacts. This region already floods, we just showed that. The 2 new features in this proposed project set up conditions where flood damages can get more focused and intense. One section, one small little piece of wall failing could create unpredictable focusing of flood energy. One segment of buoys breaking free could snag on a bridge pier. And I've helped with the design of bridge piers. Scour is a huge problem at bridge piers. It's typically what causes bridges to fail. And when you add debris and space gets taken up around the bridge pier, you imperil that bridge. And last, if you're not concerned about the first 4 risks, think about the ecological impacts of this project. Rivers are rich strips flowing through our landscapes. They're filled with fish, birds, and wildlife, and clearing the banks and building walls will really decimate that riparian habitat on the Rio Grande. And anchoring miles of buoys will really forever alter the way that fish and waterfowl can use that habitat. This would be a big blow to what remains of the Rio Grande's ecological diversity and value. And just one last slide. As I said when I started, thank you. It really is a big, important mission that you all have. I'd be happy to help in technical ways if you think I could be helpful. Right now, I think what you should consider most is how the proposed project will affect your river, not just during the placid times, but when the next hurricane passes over and reservoirs are filled to the brim. Demand information you need to understand those risks and how the proposed project mitigates all those risks, and remember what it looked like on the ground in 2010. And remember, Mark Twain said this, and I have said it in other presentations. He said it about the Mississippi, a very similar river, but 10,000 river commissions cannot tame that lawless stream. We can't control rivers 100%, so just remember that's really what you're dealing with. And again, thank you for your time. I'm sorry I went 30 seconds over. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tompkins.
Okay. Take questions, anybody? Yes, sir.
Myself?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Tompkins, probably one of our most important infrastructures are our bridges. We have 4 international bridges and a railroad bridge. From your review of the data, what is your estimation as to any potential harm or damage to our bridges if we have this barrier system set up and a 2010 type flooding event?
I expect there will be more bridge pier scour, because I do expect that some sections of those buoy strings will break free and entrap debris, trees, whatever is flowing downstream at those piers. You know, you should demand, really, again, from the designers of this project, an analysis of all of those bridges. It's a standard, you know, calculation to look at bridge scour, and with this addition to the system, I would, you know, if I were the designer of the bridge, I would certainly want analysis of the additional bridge scour by making that bridge pier effectively wider relative to the flow coming down. I mean, I can't say here today what the additional scour will be. I haven't done that analysis, but it should be done.
Can I follow up?
Sure.
Would it be fair to say that a reasonable analysis of a project of this type would include a specific analysis of the scour that will occur on the bridges that are in the way?
For sure, yes, you should, the bridges, you should evaluate all of the flooding impacts as well, but yeah, definitely debris on bridges, like I said. I mean, a project of this scale should evaluate all potential failure mechanisms. And, you know, it's pretty unprecedented to have a system of buoys like is proposed, and so there should be some analysis of, you know, some different scenarios of failure of those buoy strings, and then the implications, not just on bridges, but they will get entangled on other things. And so, you know, hydraulic modeling is well suited to look at those kinds of potential risks, and I have not seen that kind of modeling done for the proposed project.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a question. I'm not sure if you, you know, may know the answer to this or not, but if you don't, that's fine. You know, we'll address it, you know, with our city leaders. But are you familiar? I started reading into the U.S. water treaties, and I didn't get too far. But are you familiar with the U.S. water treaties between U.S. and Mexico?
Like the International Boundary Water Commission, I think they call
Yes.
it. I mean, very superficially, I've been involved in other processes on the Rio Grande, so I do have some awareness.
Well, then I'll leave it at that, and you know, we'll address that, you know, with some of our city leaders. Then, thank you.
Were you referring to the
Anybody
treaty
else?
of 1944, or that the treaty?
Yeah.
I meant,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Dr. Tompkins, so city management has shown presentations to the public to propose an alternative to the border wall that would be an earthen berm. I noticed that on page 8, you write that, it's on the 3rd paragraph, that these risks will remain even if they are replaced with an earthen berm. Can you elaborate a bit more on this for the committee?
Sure. I mean, I took that to mean, you know, that the vertical structure of the proposed wall would be replaced by an earthen structure instead. And really, so like from the perspective of the impact on river hydraulics, you'd have to do clearing of that area, I assume, still next to the earthen berm. So really it's a similar confinement of flow, and then a smoothing, we call it hydraulic smoothing of the area along that confined area of flow. And so, you know, obviously not knowing what the design details would be of that earthen berm, it's more susceptible to erosion, and especially if there are, as I expect there will be, debris snags at places, even if those buoys stay in place and don't break free, they'll redirect flows into earthen berms. And I mean, you can only design a berm like that to a certain height, and you'll have to make those kinds of decisions, but there'll always be still an overtopping risk, and there's a long history, and I've worked on several different rivers and, you know, with earthen levee systems. When those levees overtop, again, you can get these focused areas of flood flow impacts through small openings in that system that cause these more focused and kind of catastrophic impacts on the areas behind the berms. So it's a similar hydraulic phenomenon of constraining the flow area and setting up conditions where any sort of failure or exceedance of the design criteria leads to more catastrophic flooding than what you currently have.
Thank you.
Anybody else? One question, Doctor. If you take the position, and I'm not asking you to, but and I don't know that you can answer the question, but if you take the position of inevitability of some type of structure on the river, is it possible to mitigate the damage of of holding back the river, so to speak, in some portion or some percentage? I mean, is there I don't know, a happy medium? Is it? And it's not obviously if you don't do anything on a wall or buoys in the middle of the river, then you are not going to change it. But is there a way to mitigate it if it's an inevitable proposition that's coming down the road?
Is it possible to mitigate? Yeah, I mean, by mitigate, I don't mean eliminate. I mean
Right.
minimize or at least reduce the negative consequences of the inevitable failure. And sure, I mean, think of just a regular levee system anywhere. You know, it's designed with a certain level of risk, right? It protects you against the 100-year flow in theory and design, right? But we know there will be flows that are higher than the 100-year flow. We all know that as engineers designing the system. In that case, mitigating the risk could come in the form of, really elaborate flood fighting programs that, you allocate millions or billions of dollars for to set aside so that you can, as soon as those inevitable conditions start forming, you can mobilize an army to go minimize as much as possible. I mean, that is what does happen. In every case I've ever seen, we never have enough money or time or resources to really come close to eliminating it, the risk, but sometimes you can redirect or minimize. So yeah, I mean, the inevitability does not mean you can't do anything about it. It means you should plan all of that in advance, which I have not seen any of in this case.
Okay. Go ahead.
I have a question. My name is Michelle Winteroff. I'd like to know, are there any quantitative analysis of risks or any concrete local flow models, flood maps, erosion rates, and species data for Webb and Zapata County? I mean, I'm not talking about a generality. I'm talking about this, like, specifically for these areas.
Yeah, so I did show the FEMA flood mapping. That comes from modeling. It's a bit old and it's one-dimensional hydraulic modeling, so it's not what I would recommend as like the gold standard for a project like this. That would be 2D, at least 2D modeling. But yeah, there is some flood risk modeling that already shows that in a 100-year event, you're already at flood risk. And they've mapped out the zones. So you asked about flooding data. I'm sorry, what was the other data?
Flow models, flood maps, erosion rates, and species data for these areas.
Yeah, I'm less aware of all the species data, although I did do a little bit of research there. I mean, I know there is some cataloging of species at risk in the Rio Grande already. And then as far as I'm sorry, what was the third part of the question?
So only if there's any flow models, flood maps, erosion rates, and species data, which you've already answered.
Erosion rates, right, yeah, so erosion rates, so, we have very limited time to look into all of the potential risks, but we did do a comparison of 2010 and 2018 or 2020 aerial photography. There's a lot of aerial photography you could compile and then do a very, and this is something I would encourage the, the designers of the project to do a very detailed analysis of historical change, going back prior to 2010 too, because that's not very long ago. So there's data available to get at, what those rates of channel change and sediment deposition and erosion are, but as far as like analyses that have compiled all of that to a degree necessary for this project, that hasn't been completed.
So everything that you've discussed is based off of whatever you've studied in your field in other areas, correct?
In other geographic areas?
Yes.
No, I mean, I use specific information from Webb and Zapata counties.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
If I may ask one more question?
I'll indulge you, sir,
You can have my
Thank you.
question.
as my elder.
I can have your question. Mark, the data that you mentioned that you've not been able to see, would that be data that would normally be available for you to see in a project of this type?
Yes.
So it's not that you haven't looked for the data, it's that the feds have not provided the data for you to look at, is that correct?
Right, to my understanding, there's no environmental impact report, there's really no, normally you have a compendium of studies and information that would inform all of the risk analysis here, and, I mean, none of that is publicly been released or available.
Anybody else? Okay. Doctor, thank you very, very much. We appreciate your time. Hopefully we'll talk
Likewise.
again.
Good luck
Hopefully
to you
we'll
all.
talk again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Tompkins.
Okay, take care, everybody.
You bet. Okay, original item number one.
What, are you gonna make a motion?
Yeah, I was wondering, I guess what I was thinking about, well, why would we, and I guess maybe, if I'm out of order, Steve, let me know. But why would we not wanna pass this on and try to get more information about like just the questions you were asking?
Right.
If there is the data out there, why would we not want to get it? And to be able to pass it on to make a motion that this committee would like more information to pass it on. We're not experts, but we had some experts that were here, and some people around the table are. So I would like to make a motion, and I don't know if we can make, because we're not supposed to do any actions, but that we're interested in more information, and I can't imagine anybody voting against it, because I look around this table, we have different opinions. But what we're really interested in is the community. And I'm sure my ignorance right here. When they asked me to be on this committee, I really thought it would include it. It would include the buoys, and it would include all that, anything that would affect the riverfront, which I think buoys do. So I would like to say, if we would, as a committee, just say we want more information. Not that we're gonna do anything, we encourage the city to get more information, that we get everything we know. This could destroy our area.
Mhm.
And you think about this, what it would do to the bridges and to the ecology and everything else. I don't know why anybody would say we don't want more information. And if the feds can see that we're looking for it, as a community, we're not trying to be argumentative, but we love this community. We love the environment. We love what the river has done it is to us and for us. So why wouldn't we want more? Why wouldn't we wanna say we need and want more information?
Yes, sir.
And I'm not sure if this is correct or not, but possibly the reason that we don't have any of that information, or they're not sharing any of that information, I don't think they've done any of those things, right? So,
Okay, hold on. You haven't talked, so I'll give you.
No, I'm just gonna say, one of the things that the city manager mentioned, and it's mentioned here, that the city will be hiring subject matter experts. They call them SMEs, that will deal with subject matter, on environmental, hydrologists, that kind of thing. So that may be information that may be coming into the city.
I agree. Yes, sir.
But, yeah, go ahead, Ricardo.
I think that's correct. I mean, the first thing the city's lawyer is gonna say is, hey, we need experts, we need answers. So I expect that the city's already hiring experts, but we could encourage them to do that. just in case not.
Okay, hold on. Nick?
I think, I agree with that. We do, eventually that information's gonna come in front of us. I'm sure they're already gonna have experts, there's gonna be reports, there's gonna be a US Army Corps of Engineer report, there's gonna be FEMA reports. The information, I'm sure, is forthcoming. I don't think they're hiding anything from us.
Okay. Ms. Winnow?
So, like Sister Rosemary was saying, yes, we want this information. I don't think it's a matter of want, I think it's a matter of need. I am in favor of this border wall, I'm just not in favor of these buoys because of what it's going to do to the river. I'm not afraid of microplastics or anything like that coming into the river, it's just what it's going to do to the water, to the river itself. And sir, you said earlier that, you don't think they're hiding anything, they may not be hiding anything, but.
I'm not saying
at what
hiding, I'm
point-
just saying
yeah.
they haven't brought it through to us.
At what point would they bring it, when it's too late,
Right.
after this committee is
Gone.
gone?
Correct.
So we need information, we don't want it, we need information today.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So they've already read out the contracts, and they
Mhm.
gave out specifications for those contracts. They've already started to take people's properties based on their specifications. They're already starting to build walls based on their specifications. The reason they've not given us that data is because the laws that require them to give us that data, the National Environmental Policy Act, has been waived. So they don't have to give us
Okay,
that
so
data.
they've already gotten,
So they're not likely to give us that data. The bald political fact is that this administration wants to do it as quickly as possible. And that means clearing all obstructions. And they don't want some young engineer with the Corps of Engineers coming up with a reason to not do it
right.
and gumming up the works. That's why they waived the laws. If we file a lawsuit and we stop it, there's a direct appeal to the Supreme Court. Again, because they want to do it like right away.
Right.
So we need to act in terms of what we're gonna ask the city to do, because we really don't have the time to wait for further data.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I agree with Ricardo, and I mean, I don't see why the city would choose to keep itself in the dark. When the city should be bringing its concerns to the table and be proactive in protecting its infrastructure and its residents. I mean, the responsible approach, right, would be to ask the government to have these studies assessed by a third party and an independent expert, hire an independent expert to conduct our own study, so that the interests of the city are respected, and anything short of that, I think, puts us on the receiving end that presents really dangerous risks to the city and to this community.
Yes,
Are
ma'am.
we going around again? Just one.
Oh,
I just think agree with everybody around, like we're not wanting we need, but I think that this is the time to do it. Otherwise, this committee's is just inútil. They just brought us together for something, and I'm sorry. That they just brought us together so they could say that, and not they, I don't know who the magical thing is, but we brought a group together of, everybody around this has spoken out on this issue one way. You want the law, I don't want either one of them, but you would not like to have the rules. What we want is our community to be safe and hold what they
Correct.
need for now and for the future. I'm 82, I'm not gonna see it, but I want my friends that have grandchildren and the people to have a beautiful place to live. So I'm really thinking if we don't do something, then it's not really been, I don't think the city's playing around with this, but I thought, this doesn't make any sense, unless we can really do something, Steve, and I appreciate your leadership, then we need the facts. So go back and say, we as a committee said, we need more information. Well, it's not your scope. Well, can we change our scope because we care? You ask us to serve, and we're willing to serve.
yes, sir.
Well, go ahead, Ricardo, I'll go after you, if that's okay.
It's also to figure out the mitigating factors, if you asked that question. I hadn't thought, do we need to double our fire department because of it?
Mhm.
And if that's necessary, then we should know now, so that we can start to act on that. I don't think that's necessary, but you did mention that we should plan for these problems to occur, for neighborhoods to perhaps get flooded, way beyond the way they were in 2010. If that happens, is the city prepared to take care of it? And if not, then shouldn't we get prepared for doing that?
Mhm. So with all this being said, I'd like to move that we recommend to the city
Hold
council.
on, before I accept the motion, Does anybody have anything else to say here? No, not yet.
I do, I think we should get maybe a little bit more information regarding the timeline, because, you know, as, Ricardo was saying, that the contracts have already gone out. If there's a timeline on one of the, documents that we received, and, they started on this project back in November 25th. Actually, they started the first administration, previous administration with this. Anyway, but, as of, March 26th, contracts, have, so we're supposed to have that awarded, for Laredo South, approximately 26.9 miles. In February, approximately 24.7 Zapata. There you get a little bit more information as to the timeline and when they're gonna do the construction. I don't think we're gonna have any time to do any more environmental studies. I don't think they've done any. As you know, they've waived those. So that's one thing. Now, the other question I have is, I'd like to get some information regarding liabilities. And that's the reason I don't think the US-Mexico Water Treaty has any information regarding that. But what's gonna happen when we start getting damages, whether it's to our bridge system, to our water system? There's gonna be some liabilities, there's gonna be some damage, who's gonna pay for that? And then the most important thing, we live off the water from the Rio Grande, and right now it's not sufficient. We're looking for secondary water sources. As they begin clearing the ground, and we're not just talking about the city-owned property, I'm talking about the other landowners' property as well. When they start clearing all this land, we're gonna have all that sediment move into the riverbeds. The sediment will clog up the riverbeds, and we may not have water anymore. And so those are some of the questions I had, and unfortunately, it just kinda seems that, our hands are tied because we may not be able to do anything because the administration or the federal government has the right to do what they wanna do without any local approval, and unfortunately. So, you said, Sister Rosemary, we were put here as an advisory role. We're gonna advise city council then has to make a decision on their own. But again, it's the mitigation and it's the negotiation that we have to, try to see if there's a role that we can play in there that will keep our best interest in mind.
I know I'm not supposed to say anything else, but I think if bad things happen when good people keep quiet. Bad things happen when good people keep quiet. Everybody in this room was a good person. Different ideas. I've argued with Steve about things, I've argued with other, too many things for him, and we've signed a confidentiality form, we'll never talk about him. But I think if we don't, as a committee say, we really feel that we have something. Is it too late? We don't think so.
No.
If it's too late, then why would we call together? We need, and I'm all for, you were gonna make a motion or something that we move this forward.
I think, if I may, Mr. Chairman, thank you, Sister, and Mr. Alanis, I think for this committee, this is an engineering challenge, right? The evidence that Dr. Tompkins just presented, what's in his report, what's in front of us right now, clearly speaks for itself. I mean, we all heard him, right? I mean, his credibility, he studied the effects of border wall impacts, and not just here, but also downstream in Mission. There must be a study commissioned, and therefore I move to, that we recommend.
I don't wanna entertain a motion yet, if you don't mind. Not yet. I'll give you your shot, but I don't wanna entertain the motion yet. Couple things. First off, there are a number of people who came here, I'm sure they wanna talk. They asked that you submit a piece of paper about what you wanna talk about by 4:15. If you did not submit that piece of paper, you're not supposed to be able to talk. But what I'm telling you, since you came here and you wanna talk, I will stay here and do whatever else and let you speak. I'm not gonna adhere to the 4:15 part, number one. Number two, I am going to request that if you do wanna talk, that we limit it, right? Is 5 minutes fair, y'all?
Yeah.
Is that fair? Okay, we limit it. And we'll get to whoever wants to talk, I promise you. If I have to stay here till 9 o'clock, I'll do it. The second is procedurally, since in the agenda, no action on this item, can we ask about it? Karen, I'm asking you, I don't know.
Can we ask about having?
Can we ask the city to provide us more information about this?
The item was wouldn't, no committee action required, it doesn't say no committee action
It doesn't
Can be done,
to be done.
so we can ask.
So you can ask.
Okay. So we're gonna wanna ask two things, right?
No
We're
committee
gonna
action
wanna
required.
ask the scope, from city council, the scope of the committee and define it for us, number one. Number two, I think I know what you're gonna ask, but, well, let's do it. Do we need to have a motion for as separate items, scope and additional
You
information?
can do two separate, yes, that's
Okay.
fine, and each item would need a motion and a second,
Okay.
and then the vote.
I would like to make a motion that we ask city council to expand our scope from only city-owned property to federally owned property as it relates to buoys. I don't think we wanna get into private landowners, at this point in time.
Can you
I second
repeat
that.
that? Can you, so we.
That the city define our scope to include federally owned properties, more specifically the riverbed and how it relates to the buoys,
Okay.
okay?
I second that.
But just a procedural, I think you can entertain the motion, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
I have to get it,
Yes.
I have to get, before we
You
get a
have to entertain
second,
it,
I
and,
have, right, so
one of
I
us
get,
can move it.
right, so,
I'll move the motion.
second,
second.
Ricardo, all right, any discussion?
You
Motion carried by acclamation, oh, I'm sorry.
One question, Mr. Chairman. You don't think that too, we should ask, included in that too, is ask the city how far along they are even in negotiations? Because a lot of this stuff could be mute.
I think that comes in the second motion.
Yeah.
All right, can I move that we approve this motion by acclamation?
Yeah,
So
so,
moved.
you so moved.
All right, second,
I move that we recommend to City Council that a fluvial geomorphologist be retained by the City of Laredo to assess the effects of proposed border wall and buoys on the city's critical infrastructure, including any increased danger to its international bridges and water treatment facilities.
I second that.
well, that's a motion, you entertain the motion and you second it?
Yes.
Yes, any discussion?
I do. So, we already have what I feel is a detailed, information that's provided. It doesn't take a scientist to understand the effect and the danger that this is gonna, create, right? But I don't know how much it's gonna cost to do another study, and who's gonna have to pay for it, and is it needed?
So, go ahead.
One at a time, y'all, go ahead.
So the city just paid $50,000
Yeah.
to get a poll,
Mm-hmm.
asking people what they thought about the wall, which everybody knew, 85% of people said, we don't want a wall. And if this is just a recommendation to the city, they can say, oh, we're already doing it,
Understand.
thank you very much, guys. But we're just recommending to the city that they go to their experts.
But do we know what the cost is gonna be on a report like what you're asking?
Well.
Excuse me, what was the question?
What's gonna be the cost?
Oh,
The city would probably have to put out, if this motion is approved by council, or this action is approved by council, probably a request for proposals, where they usually request estimates for something like this.
But we don't have any idea?
It would be less
Ballpark?
than 50,000 for sure. More like 25 from my experience.
If I-
that's not what, excuse me, that's not the numbers.
That's not the point.
Yeah, that's not, number one, it's not the point. Number two is, all we're doing is we're requesting the city to explore that avenue,
Correct,
right? Then the city takes that and they do what they want
correct.
and come back with us. So that's all we're asking. I don't think we need to get into how much it's gonna cost or, I mean, cause that's not
not
our place. We want more information. This is specifically some of the information that we want. Will you provide it for us? How they get it, what it costs them, that's up to city council. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make an amendment to my motion.
Okay,
I move that we recommend to the city council that a fluvial geomorphologist be retained by the city of Laredo to assess the effects of the proposed wall and buoys on the city's critical infrastructure, and this is my amendment, and including any increased danger to its international bridges, water treatment facilities, public parks, and other infrastructure.
I accept that amendment.
I'm sorry, I'm
Second.
sorry, I do have-
discussion?
Okay.
So, first of all, you're recommending that, but how long is this going to take?
Don't know.
But-
We don't know.
But we could slow the
We could
process down.
ask for it.
Yeah, I think we still ask for it.
We
I'm
still
sorry,
ask
I'm
for
sorry,
it.
I'm
Yes, no,
sorry.
no, no, I completely get it. And second is, we're asking the city to do something that we don't even know, like, how do they get around legalities? How do they get around that? Is that gonna cost us more money in the end to try to hire somebody to fight that, even if they come back with information that?
Hold on,
we
hold on,
can't
hold on.
Why did, and I think that's a good question, but why did they ask us to come together? I think they asked, if they don't wanna listen to us, if they come, they say that that's not what we asked, we don't have the money. But I think, I've got a sense of excitement and urgency here. We'd like it to move forward. We put it in their ballgame. We as a committee feel it's important. See what they say, not how much it's gonna cost, why, they've asked us to come together, so I respect your opinion, but I think I would like to move it on and let them come back and say, don't have the money, take too long, it's already, the train has already left the town, but let us know. Then this committee comes out on paper saying, we asked for this.
Martin, you had a question?
No, I was just going to just re-reference what Ricardo spoke about earlier, the cost of this survey, which was paid for with taxpayer dollars, 50,000 to the tune of, I mean,
It was not.
35, whatever the price was, but, yeah, I think any just analysis into the city's infrastructure is, especially its critical infrastructure, needs to be assessed.
Okay.
I
Go
mean,
ahead.
So I agree with you, it does need to be assessed, but even if it does get assessed, how long is this going to take? Like, are we gonna be too late? Are we doing this just to do it? And then the findings are gonna be like, oh, too late, it's already
They
done.
asked us to do it, just to say they had a
Wait,
committee.
hold on,
I'm
hold
sorry,
on, hold
okay,
on.
I promise, no more.
I will tell you that I don't,
You're okay.
we have no idea how long it's gonna take.
Right.
We have no idea if we are going to be able to come up with a conclusion before a decision is made, right? We have no idea. I think the least we can do is ask.
Well,
And
yes,
if it makes it to us, great, but I think that's the least we can do is ask. And then let city council go with it the way they wanna do it. That's why they're elected officials.
The
That's why
city-
they pay them the big bucks.
The city budget is almost $1 billion, I think they can afford 25 or 50.
Well, I don't know what they can afford or can't afford, but I think we leave it up to them.
I
Yes,
just-
sir.
Let's just
Sorry,
ask
Mitch.
for it.
Hold on,
I just wanna say one last thing.
okay.
The purpose of this committee is to provide technical information to stated wall impacts on city-owned land. Not a single stated report has been commissioned or requested by this committee to fulfill its mission, forcing a nonprofit organization and private landowners, to step in response to the demands of the community we serve.
And I think we're requesting that, right? And I think that's fair that we request it. Whether we get that information or not, we have no control over. But we can request it. And I think we have an obligation and a fiduciary responsibility, as this committee was formed, to do that. The rest of it is up to them, my opinion. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Do you need
Any
me
more
to,
discussion?
I was just gonna say, if you need me to repeat my item.
No?
If you can email it to me.
Sure.
Okay, can I claim this by acclamation?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so moved. Now, we will get to people who wanna speak, I promise. Let's go back to number 1. Karen, would you read that for me?
Yes. Committee discussion regarding the question, what does long-term riverfront success look like for the city of Laredo? The discussion will address the advisory role of the Rio Grande Riverfront Coordination and Advisory Committee in supporting stewardship, coordination, and planning for the Rio Grande River corridor. If I may,
Yes.
Your first motion to see about expanding the scope from the committee addresses some of that already. So,
My what
your
now?
motion to expand the committee scope addresses some of that question already.
Okay.
But if y'all want to have additional conversation on it. then-
Any discussion on this?
I think what we've been discussing.
Okay, everybody's good with it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I would ask, unless somebody has something else, if anybody wants to say anything. I don't know, Larry, you wanted to say something? So,
Mr.
you got,
Chair.
oh, yes, sir.
Before I'm gonna have to, and I apologize, I had an event planned for today, so I'm having to leave to San Antonio, but I think it's important for us to ask, council any legalities that may remain, unresolved that might either delay or help us, push back, the construction. I don't know if there is, but, are there any other legal matters that we can, that use, right, to fight this or not, so.
Call
with
it
that-
election. Election. Excuse me,
So,
can you
and I
give me,
apologize,
indulge
yeah.
me just 1 second?
Sure.
Give me 3 minutes so I can go to the
Thank
restroom?
Yeah.
Okay, give me like 3 minutes, I'll be right back, I promise.
Can we recess then for 5 minutes? 'Cause it seems
Sure,
like it's-
5 minutes.
Well,
Ask him to file eminent domain and also. Es que nadie aquí estaba cuando compré la tierra.
Yeah, why not?
Councilmember, how are you? Good to see you. Councilmember, good to see you.
I think the city manager pretty much spelled it out.
It's gonna be a tough
I don't know if I told you, but they changed the zoning requirements. I mean, it was supposed to be in council chambers and then they moved it to, but I didn't see that till this morning.
Do you have a list of?
I can tell you. They should be in touch with us. I'm not gonna remember. Because I have like, right just from now, I have already have my list of things that I'd like to appreciate. Was there any other press outside?
But he was also asking about the international level. And it seems like, and this was the state putting the buoys in Eagle Pass and whatever. But they didn't have anything, they just did it.
Michelle, everybody, there's one of the season, and then another ROT.
Yes, 2. I'm sorry, did y'all?
Hector,
How are you,
Man, I grabbed the water. So I'm glad you need it.
Bring the paper to my office, call my office
Just kind of touched on
Eagle Pass, they get the buoys.
We agree
The state
with
even
that.
wanted to go over.
All his assessment, everything he's talking about, he's right.
They didn't ask anything, and they still did. In this case, you know, I was like, I guess I was like about 6 years old when they used it for after the flood. No Laredo was devastated more than me because the elevation stinks. So that's why I wanted the Fed senior lawyer to ask me how that affects Mexico. Because it's gonna affect Mexico. It's gonna affect
They lose their privilege. The least they should do is study the impact of the bill. Model problem. Everybody know what size it is.
Everything was not the firefighters. Train them in flood.
If you're gonna speak, can you help me with the
Because of the one I saw before, my reading was the flood.
But this bridge that the company was there, I mean,
Well, there's kind of, I was gonna talk about this, what, our perspective looks like, what we do. And, what we're currently doing, these projects, what it takes. all the coordination. I mean, everybody knows it's gonna get waived, but at least they need to know what you're supposed to be doing.
Yes, they're on the city website.
Not if nobody's doing it. You know, the scare now. Talk about the erosion, somebody talk about erosion, sediment travel, reducing the volume of the river. That's a big deal.
It just goes to show
Yeah.
how fair we are.
I just don't know of anybody on GC doing this.
Who would have thought?
Maybe, you know, we haven't even seen the plans, we don't even know what they look like. But at least they should do is be, at least giving that to the city, so the city can at least give that, and take a look at it. So I asked it.
So I asked a question to the Border Patrol. I said, did you ever meet someone
She's a big time Yankees fan.
You gonna come back to help us?
I'm just sitting on the sideline.
We gotta get you in the fire.
Since I acquired most of the land while I was here, I might as well
It
say
was,
something.
right, yeah. You know, the thing is, that's sad for me, is everybody's gone from the city, but I'm still here. That's the only thing. Gee, all my friends are gone.
Institutional knowledge is gone. That's a shame.
And environmental, you're you know,
all the toys.
I wanna take the food home.
the 5 feet.
I'm trying not to look at the donuts.
No, I thought it was just a second home.
You copied the
Yeah, we know that. A couple of weeks ago.
You bought a ranch, it's not a ranch. You have oceanfront property. Everybody said you're crazy when you bought it.
Yep.
Agree on everything, but we agree on a lot of
Well, I mean,
The developer's done, the developer's done.
yeah, if you had curb gutter.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Musk is long back. He's taken over that little store. It's on the way.
I'm not.
Ships flying out.
23 years.
Yeah. How about you?
Common language. You have a copy of it, right?
That I distanced seated with football. I need, I wanna go see that.
All right, are we ready?
Yeah, why?
All right, so, can I have your attention?
Yes, you may.
Larry, go ahead.
When I was city manager in year 2000, I think I acquired most of the land that you're talking about. The reason we acquired the land is because we wanted to be like the rest of America. We wanted to have the Corps of Engineers come down and work the bridge like they do the Mississippi. You have cities like Memphis, Minneapolis, New Orleans. All of the work that is done on the Mississippi River is done by federal resources. So the city alone shouldn't be the responsibility of the city, should be the responsibility of the nation. We acquired the land with a lot of work, a lot of staff, a lot of money was involved. If the inevitable is that we go to eminent domain, I hope that somebody in the city is strong enough to negotiate the cost of the land, because there was a cost. Time, money, everything. I think we are entitled to be like other Americans and to have
the beauty that's within the city to be developed as it should be for the benefit of the people. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Edward Garza. I'm a professional engineer, principal owner of Crane Engineering. I'm born and raised in Laredo, and I specialize in hydrology. Our clients include the city of Laredo and some private developers. We do a lot of FEMA work, flood map revision studies here in Laredo for clients. And I just want to share with you the process to help you better understand. Anytime you revise a floodplain with any improvement, you're required by law to submit a CLOMR, conditional letter of map revision, to FEMA. FEMA has time to review and approve that. What that does when you get that approved is it gives you permission to then do the construction on the floodplain. Then you to physically change the flood map, you need then a LOMR after construction, which requires additional analysis. And you submit that to FEMA, and then once they approve it, then the actual flood maps are actually revised through a letter of map revision. Now, along the river, we're currently working on 3 projects for the city and one for risk that involves federal funding. Because it's federal funding and because we're along the river right now, we are obligated by law to do all the environmental studies that are required by the federal law because we're spending federal funds. All these studies are underway as we speak. In addition to that, we're also being required by the International Boundary and Water Commission to do an archaeological dig, which hasn't been done in Laredo in many, many years. We're currently doing that as we speak. And this is required by a federal agency. In order to make any improvements along the Rio Grande River, you have to get what's called a license from the International Boundary and Water Commission. And the office in El Paso is responsible for that review. And there's a local office in Laredo. So these are the requirements in basic statements that I'm making. There's there's hydrology studies, there's modeling that's required, there's map development that's required, including existing condition models and future models. All these things are required in order to do any development spending public money. And even private funds for that matter when you're revising the floodplain. So we all know here in this room that the federal government is waiving all those requirements. There's nobody else other than the federal government that can do that. Nobody else can do that. And it takes months to get all this work done. We spend years getting these maps approved by FEMA. Years. And it takes a lot of investment by clients and by engineers to do that, but it's required and it's the right thing to do. So now talking specific about some of the things that I've heard at today's meeting, border walls, metal walls in the floodplain, berms in the floodplain, all that. We read the report from that was presented, and we agree with everything that's presented in that report. As a professional engineer, all the comments made, we agree with. And so what we expect will happen is when the major flood events occur in Laredo, which they will occur, and there's a breach in the wall, we're all going to get flooded. The water's there's something called the backwater effect, and we have to study the backwater effect because when you create barriers to flow, you have to model the backwater effect. And let me give you an example. Last July in the flood in Kerrville, the flood rose so bad, so quickly, so fast, that the firefighters that were looking for survivors, which my daughter is a firefighter with Houston, and she was there, they relied on a professional engineer's model to determine how far up to go look for people. Because the floodplain maps were not updated. And that's what we have here in FEMA. The flood maps along the Rio Grande River are only updated maybe every 20 years, maybe. And so it's up to a professional engineer to model the existing conditions and then work with existing condition models to then model proposed improvements. So even if anybody is working on models, you have to always question how old is that model? And will FEMA recognize it? Because in our experience, we're always having to update models, always. We all use the same software. we all go to the same schools, and we all work together in unison. And I'm talking about engineers across the state of Texas, and the United States for that matter. And so I just wanted to share some of this with all of you to help you better understand what we go through when we follow the law and how much investment and time it takes. Now, if we build a berm, the force of water, in my opinion, is going to erode that berm unless it's designed and built correctly. And it all comes down to slopes. Now, I'm working on one project in particular right next to the water treatment plant at Jefferson for the city of Laredo. And we met with the engineers from the federal government 4 years ago. And we exchanged cards, and we agreed to work together. And to this day, I'm still waiting for the plans. 4 years later, they got my plans. I was authorized by the city to release my plans, and I'm still waiting for theirs. And I already know I'm never gonna see them. And here we are, you know, as a professional engineer, I am concerned that the city of Laredo does not have an opportunity to even review the plans. At least that allow our engineering department to review them. We may not stop it, but we need to at least have an idea of what we're getting ourselves into. And we're not even being given that opportunity. So I can keep on, and I can go on and on and on, but these are just some relevant points I wanted to make.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm working the
Name?
Azteca name, Rafael Torres,
Thank you. For the record.
for the record. So I work in the Azteca neighborhood, I fear for all the neighborhoods that are near the edge of the river. I know that the engineer talked about 2010. We have 50 apartments right there on the bank on Water Street. And in 1998, when you remember that Eagle Pass got like 24 inches of rain, the water came up to the edge of the building. And there was no obstructions in the river. You could see empty trailers floating down the river, gas tanks at great velocities. Very lucky that they didn't bump into any of the bridges. So it's really going to affect us. Commend your work, and hope we can stop this from happening.
Thank you. Anybody else? From the committee members, anything before we adjourn? Thank you for coming, appreciate it. Everybody go get their bathing suits, it's spring break. Oh, yes.
Yes, just a quick reminder that your next meeting will be, on March 25th, but going back to Wednesdays at 2 p.m.
Would that be in this room?
Yes. You should have that on your calendars already.
I'm sorry, did you say 2 p.m.?
2 p.m., yes.
Thank you all very much.
Wednesday,
Steve,
March
Yes,
thank you.
it should
Thank you
already
all.
be on your calendar.
Karen, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can you have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Amantia, can you
Yes.
have a motion to adjourn?
Can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Yay.
Thank you.
Cancun, here we come.